me with being moderator, being a master of ceremony?
Yes. Hello.
Good morning, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Okay. Good afternoon to all participants. Welcome to the International Lecture Series 2. We are very delighted to have all of you here at this event today that will discuss about sustainable coastal management. Firstly, I would like to welcome the Head of Urban and Regional Planning Department, Professor Dr. Wiwandari Handayani, STM PMPS. Our honorable guest lecturer today, Associate Professor Dr. Insinyur Leon M. Hermans, from Faculty of Technology, Policy and Management, TU Delft, Netherlands. Our host lecturer, Dr. Wisnu Pradoto, and the moderator, Ibu Maya Damayanti. Welcome to our beloved lecturers from Urban and Regional Planning Department, students, and everyone who is joining online from Zoom and YouTube channel. Before we jump into the main event, please kindly see the event agenda for today. Okay, we will move on to the first session, which is the opening speech from the Head of Urban and Regional Planning Department, Professor Dr. Wiwandari Handayani, SMPS. The time is yours.
Yeah. Thank you, Mbak Adila. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, good morning for Leo. And yeah, for to open or to start our lecture series today, please allow me to welcome our guest lecturer. Can I just call you Pak Leo, ya, Pak Leo, and also Pak Wisnu. It's really nice for us to continue the international lecture series. I don't know whether Bu Landung has informed you, Pak Leo, that we have this series. We invite different scholars with different expertise to give lecture in our department, hoping that our students can enrich their research topic on different addressing different issues related to urban and regional planning. And great to know that today we have the topic on coastal management, as that is also one of my research focus actually, Pak Leo. So I will try to join and hoping that we can continue with the discussion. And I would like also to take this opportunity to say thank you very much for the moderator, Bu Maya, and also Bu Landung, who always very keen to help coordinating this event, and also to Mbak Adila and all the participants, hoping that we can take the most benefit, yeah, for this from this lecture, and hoping that we can continue with interesting research related to our topic today. Thank you, and I give back to Mbak Adila. Good afternoon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Bu Wiwi, for the opening speech. So without further ado, we will move to our main session. I handed this session to Ibu Maya. Please welcome Ibu Maya. The time is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Mbak Adila. Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning for Pak Leon. Once again, thank you very much for attending this lecture series, and thank you very much for Pak Leons and also Pak Wisnu to be as the lecturers in these sessions. So as Bu Wiwi mentioned before that the topic for today is sustainable coastal management. Is our second series in the international lecture series. In this series, each lecture we share their knowledge or their experience related to a particular topic today is about sustainable coastal management. And for these sessions, Pak Leon will present the Pak Leon will share his knowledge and sharing the experience related to this topic. And then it will be followed by Pak Wisnu, and then in the end of the sessions, there will be a question and answer sessions. So for the first part, please welcome Pak Leon to present your presentations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Maya. Then I'll share my screen. Let's see if we can do that relatively smoothly. Is this okay? Or should I switch swap the screens?
Yeah, it's fine.
It's okay. Thank you.
Okay, then yeah, then thank you once again for inviting me to share some insights with you. I'll talk about policy analysis for coasts and deltas, and that is because it is very close to my area of expertise. My name is Leon Hermans, but indeed you can call me please Leon. I'm an associate professor at IHE Delft Institute for Water Education, which is the largest international graduate education facility in the field of the water sector, and it operates under the auspices of UNESCO. It's based in Delft, and also my other position is based in Delft with Delft University of Technology, where I'm also an associate professor in the field of policy analysis, and that is also what I would like to talk to you about in the coming half an hour or so. So what I hope to cover with you is just a brief introduction to policy analysis, and then to go into a topic that is easily overlooked, but that is actually of fundamental importance for policy analysis on coasts and deltas, which is problem formulation. And then, if time allows, I would quickly want to go through a few of the methods that we have for policy analysis, just to give you a bit of an idea. But yeah, given time, let's simply continue with first of all the introduction to policy analysis. So if we want to talk about policy analysis, then maybe we start with the first thing, which is policy. That's the first word also in the label, and I think it's important to realize that okay, what do I mean when I talk about policy? It's basically something that governments do. Or
Sorry, Pak Leon. Sorry.
Yes. Sorry.
Pak Leon. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry for interrupting. Could you please put it in the slides so we can see it clearly?
Yeah. So I think I was indeed. I think I would maybe need to swap. This is maybe better, huh? Is this better?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. If not, indeed, please interrupt. So now you are seeing me go through the slides, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. No, thank you for mentioning. I was already thinking maybe I should swap it, but so thank you. No, so when I'm talking about policy, I mean public policy, which relates to what governments do, and well, you can ask yourself, why do we have governments in the first place, and then why do we need policies? And that has to do with yeah, well, for instance, this quote, which is a very old quote from one of the ancient Roman emperors already, but it shows you that this is really nothing new, and that as long as we have had human society, there have also been issues or tasks or things we want to achieve that actually require collaboration, that are things that we share or that we find of shared interest. And that requires that we take coordinated action. And I liked this quote because it directly refers to, let's say, the environmental resources, including the water resources and the sea and the coasts. But in fact, this is of course just one area of public policy and one example where in society we do need to collaborate because we share these resources, and if we don't manage them well together in a coordinated way, we may all be actually yeah, running into trouble. So we then really need policies to manage, well, public goods and services, but especially these common pool resources like our water, like our shorelines, like our seas, like the coastal areas, for which we do need coordinated action. And when the coordinated action is coming from government or is being supported in a clear way by government, we call that public policy. And of course, if we make policies, then so what we do is we try to take actions that help us to manage these common pool resources in a good way. And that becomes more effective if we have some understanding of what's going on in the system. And so that refers to the part of analysis in policy analysis. And one question that I put here on the slide, and maybe you can give it some thoughts for yourself, is if you would agree with this statement about policy analysis, also maybe given your own earlier experiences or encounters with policy analysis and maybe with sort of planning support, is that the main role for policy analysis is to use scientific methods to provide sound evidence that enables decision makers to develop better policies. Usually when I put this question forward to an audience, and I ask people to raise their hands if they agree, then in fact I think most would raise their hands, but not all. And it's interesting to realize why some people have different ideas about this. And also I must say myself, I agree with most parts in this statement, but what is tricky is that this is actually sort of an ideal type. This is what we would like policy analysis to be, had to have some evidence-based decision making based on rational science and provide the objective information that then informs decision makers. And that is sort of the ideal type. But in practice, there are, of course, a lot of challenges with this. And we will go into some of these challenges in this lecture also. But to just illustrate a little bit the importance of this, yeah, sort of ideal type idea of policy analysis, this is a guide for water governance. You'll have similar guides, I think, for instance, integrated coastal zone management, maybe similar cycles also for instance, disaster risk reduction management. And you'll see that they typically have these kind of cycles, and sometimes they have these 5 stages that we show here. Sometimes they have 4 or 6, but it's all very similar, that it always starts with identifying a policy problem to set the agenda for, okay, what is it that we maybe need a policy for, that we want this sort of improved coordinated action for. And then the second step often is to think, okay, so what can we do? What are our policy or planning alternatives? Then to make a choice and a decision. Here it's called approval. Sometimes it's called decision making or choice. And then, of course, you have to implement your policies. And if it's about policy analysis, then it's also important not just to implement the policy, but also to monitor the implementation and to evaluate then the impacts of the policy, so that you could sort of assess, is this actually satisfactory? Are we happy with the outcomes, or do we need another cycle in this process to maybe again see that not all the problems are solved, or sometimes new problems arise. And this is very much based also on ideas about policy analysis, which are shown on this in this figure, which is a bit more of a linear sequence of actions, but you see some of the arrows pointing back up, suggesting that in fact also this sort of linear process you can represent as a cycle. And also here that cycle starts with identifying a problem, specifying objectives. I'll get to that in a minute. But then also again, identifying alternatives. What alternative policy options do we have? Analyzing those, comparing those, and making a choice for which alternative to implement. So this is all what is nowadays called the classic textbook approach to both to policy making, but also to policy analysis. And it is still very influential, and I would say also actually very, very useful. But it is also a bit of an ideal type. And I put on this slide some of the bullets that explain why I consider this a bit of an ideal type, because it says, okay, policy making as rational decision making with clear stages. We first identify what is the problem we're going to address. Then we set our objectives and we try to find the best possible alternative based on scientific knowledge to make the best possible decision. And this is how we would like it to be. But I think everyone of us has our own examples where we have noticed, oh, but this seems to be sometimes we say this is just more a political decision than a well-informed rational decision. And there are all good reasons for this. So in practice, we see that this ideal type is really difficult to attain and to realize. And it very often already goes wrong at the very beginning. If you remember my two diagrams, they have identifying the problem we want to address as the basis, one shared problem definition from which we can then elaborate. And often it goes already wrong there. So I thought let's spend some time there, because if we don't get that part right, then everything that will follow, of course, also cannot be right. So let's start there and let's have a look at that. Policy making and problem solving, they are very closely related. This is again the same cycle, but now a more classic version of it with just 4 stages. And those 4 stages have been proposed by Herbert Simon. Herbert Simon is a very classical scientist in economics and organizational science. And he came up with this problem solving cycle already in the 1960s. And you can see that you can still recognize this cycle in all these sort of policy and planning cycles that we see nowadays. But here it starts with intelligence, which is sort of figuring out what is the situation, being intelligent about the situation in which you find ourselves and which you would want to improve, where the problem that you want to solve is located. And then based on that intelligence, you can design possible solutions, make a choice, and implement. But it's the intelligence stage where we need to think particularly hard. And this is just to show that you can still recognize this classic cycle in all kinds of more modern planning cycles. The last one is by Piet Laux and Ilko van Beek. Is a cycle developed for water resources planning and management, but it has the same rough structure still. And so then it becomes very important to think about, okay, the intelligence of establishing what problem are we going solve here. As you can see here, yeah, there are all kinds of examples when we did great impressive things, but you can ask yourself, did we really need this? Was this really solving a problem? If you look at those pictures of the highway at the bottom right, you say, okay, yeah, really nice highway, but if there is only 2 or 3 cars on it, did we really need it? Or maybe we start with something that we didn't think through. Do we really need it? Or can we actually really realize it? So it's really important to think, well, what is the problem that with this maybe nice solution we are going to solve? And is then this really the problem we need to solve? And I think one very internationally famous example from your country related to coasts and deltas is of course this scheme that you have contemplated and planned to protect Jakarta against flooding. And you can think, okay, this gives really an international appeal. It is really also an appealing vision and idea. At the same time, you can, okay, what problem do we solve? And is this then the best way to solve that problem? Or do maybe some stakeholders see this as the best way to solve the problem that they see, maybe sea level rise, coastal flooding, whereas other stakeholders maybe see completely different problems related to that same coastal areas and maybe think, well, I'm not sure if this is then the solution to those problems. And maybe, yeah, of course, sea level rise, but maybe the bigger problem is that the city is actually sinking because of all the groundwater abstractions. Or maybe this is a problem, but maybe the inland flooding problem from the rivers is maybe the more urgent one we need to tackle. Or, yeah, sea level rise, but we also need to be able to continue our maybe fishing activities for some of the more local communities. So you can see that if there is no clear agreement about what problem we're trying to solve, then even the most expensive and high-tech type of solution is not going to end the debate about it. So it is really important that we think about the problem we are trying to address. That is where the intelligence is needed mostly as the fundament for and the foundation for everything that follows. And that makes problem structuring very, very important. There is another very classic scientist, systems, one of the founders of the discipline of systems thinking, Russell Eckhoff, and he already said that, hey, what is successful problem solving? Well, it means finding the right solution to the right problem, and it more often goes wrong because we did not get the problem right than because we got the wrong solution to the right problem. It really often already fails in the stage of identifying the proper problem. So what is the problem, and how can you think about that? So let's just take an example to illustrate that often we are maybe presented with a problem and we like and it's very tempting to take that for granted, whatever maybe our clients or our politicians or maybe our managers tell us, hey, this is a problem you should address as a planner or as a policy analyst. But it is important to realize that you need to question that and you need to probe it a little bit. It is also a good service to actually, let's say, your problem owner. And it's your task as a planner and as a policy analyst to do that and not just to start with whatever is being offered to you. So let's take the example of flooding in coastal and delta regions. If we take those 4 elements in problem solving, if you remember them, from what is the problem to what are the alternatives? How do we make a choice for one of the alternatives, and then how do we implement it? We could say, okay, if we're facing these coastal floods, then maybe our problem is how to improve flood protection, and that's maybe what we should be addressing. Okay, how could you do that? I just put a few of the most common alternatives here on the slide, but if you want to improve flood protection, typically what you could do is you could build some infrastructure like dikes, like sluices, or like the larger Garuda project that we just saw on the slide for Jakarta. And of course, in delta regions at least, we also need to install pumping capacity because sometimes the flooding is not just coming from the coast or the sea, but sometimes it's coming from the inland sources in the delta. So those are the things we would logically start to consider. How would we compare then what is the best option, or what is the best combination of option? Well, very often we do some sort of cost-benefit analysis, maybe accompanied with sort of an environmental impact assessment to compare what is the most economically efficient and effective way to do this, and yeah, who would be responsible for this process and for the implementation of the selected alternatives. Very often a water agency, the water authority, whoever is in charge, maybe the coastal authority. The exact authority may differ from one country or even sometimes one region to another, but it would typically be one of the regional or national level water authorities or ministries or agencies who would be responsible for maintaining dikes, constructing dikes and sluices, and all these pumping infrastructure. Maybe in Indonesia, it would be under the Ministry of PUPR, could be. We could also, well, flood protection. No, we should better frame it as reducing flood risks. And you may think, well, flood protection, flood risk, is that not the same? I guess some of you who have done some work in the field of risk reduction immediately realize that, oh no, it is very closely related, of course, but it is slightly different. And if you put that in a planning setting, then it also means you get different alternatives. So yeah, of course we can build that flood protection infrastructure. Those dikes and those sluices, they are not irrelevant to this problem, but we can also maybe start to consider some other options, like, okay, maybe better spatial planning, making sure that we don't have a lot of vulnerable industries in the most flood prone areas of the coasts, or making sure that we try to keep urban developments out of certain zones that are located in those more flood prone areas. And even if we then combine it with some early warning systems, hey, then we can have a slightly different picture. But for those different types of measures, those different types of alternatives, maybe it is not just the water authority who is responsible. Maybe it is not just the Ministry of PUPR in Indonesia that we need to address. Maybe now other agencies and other government entities actually come into play. Who is the one in charge of making spatial plans? Who should be helping us with early warning systems? Who is doing the weather forecasts, for instance? So then it becomes already a bit more complicated. And we could even think of, oh, maybe it's not just reducing flood risks. Nowadays, maybe it is actually much more about resilience and those integrated solutions and the sort of the landscapes, or if we are talking about water and deltas, maybe waterscapes. And maybe we should be considering the previous types of solutions, but maybe it's actually more also interesting to consider these sort of nature-based solutions, sort of living dikes, or the Room for the River projects that we have had in the Netherlands, and that are now also more and more being contemplated and sometimes implemented in other parts of the world. Management options that work much more with the tidal dynamics in these tidal river systems. Then it becomes a much more decentralized effort where we try to actually not just realize the value of flood protection and flood risk and what it costs in terms of dollars, if you want, or monetary values. But actually, we also want to implement something for nature, for biodiversity, or just for the social well-being of the people. And if that is the problem we are trying to tackle, oh, then it becomes even more complicated. So you can see that with one sort of starting point, we can formulate different problems, and that gives rise to quite different types of problem-solving cycles. And the point is not to say here that the third option, which is the broadest and maybe the most sort of integrated, that would always be the best. That is not the point here. Sometimes, if you know that your intelligence suggests that really the problem is with the first aspect, the infrastructure, then of course it is better to focus on that one, because at least it is more doable. It is a bit less complicated. You can see it in the column. It's clear which main stakeholder is responsible. The options are a bit better demarcated, and they are maybe in a way easier to analyze. And if we would go for the right-hand side, option 3, the solution becomes more integrated, but also the entire process becomes much more complex. And sometimes that is simply what we need, but not always. So the point of this slide is not to say it should always be the most broadest and most complex type of problem framing, but it does matter what choice you make. And it also matters for policy analysis, because with each different problem framing, you get different types of questions for analysis. And I just put some of them here on slide to show that, okay, with every cell in this table, so with every aspect of planning and policy analysis, there are important questions that you should ask yourselves, especially if you're hired as the planning analyst or policy analyst to support all this. Okay, so if that is just one fairly common example, then it shows you how important this problem structuring really becomes, and how important it is to do that well. And typically, if you would want to do that well in a policy setting, you would want to pay attention to 3 types of things. One is the system that you're trying to address, in this case, maybe the coastal or the delta system. And that is what we also looked at in the previous tables. How do we understand this system where we want to reduce floods or reduce flood risks? But the other 2 angles are also very important to take into account already in the most early stages of planning. One is thinking about the actors and the stakeholders involved, because they will not agree on what the problem is and how they would like the problem to be framed. And you have to consider that while framing the problem. Of course, your problem owner is a very special and important actor or stakeholder, but even that organization cannot operate fully independently and fully in isolation of all the other stakeholders. And the third aspect to really think about when it's about public policy is to realize that we always have to deal with the short-term and the long-term trade-offs. So we should not just think about what is going to solve our problem today, or maybe in 2 years' time, but really also what would this mean for the long-term future in maybe 20 or 30 years from now. And that is very often creating a lot of tension and difficulties, but you have to take it into account, because especially if we are going to do expensive or fundamental changes in society, it is our responsibility to also think, okay, will this may be good for us now in the next 2 or 3 years, but will it also be good for our children or for our grandchildren? Now, the last thing I wanted to briefly cover in the time is, so then where do you start? Because obviously it's important. Obviously you can do it in different ways, and it makes a difference how we do it. So I just wanted to go through a fairly simple in a way technique to get you started. That is coming from this book on policy analysis, where it starts with the initial problem formulation and going through several elements that you need to establish a first problem formulation that you can then discuss with each other, with all the stakeholders, to have a basis to agree on, okay, what is the policy problem or the planning problem we're trying to address here. And if you look at past cases, you can see that very often there maybe was no agreement about this aspect. And it starts with being very explicit about your problem owner, because it matters who you take as your problem owner. If we would take in the previous example, maybe indeed the Ministry of PUPR as our problem owner, and we realize that they are indeed mostly responsible for putting in place good infrastructures, then that already frames a lot how you see the problem. And it is important to realize that this matters. And we tend to think that, oh, the problem is just out there. It's the public problem for the government or for the province or for the state. But even then, there are different organizations active in the province or in the state with different responsibilities, different mandates, that mean that they have to worry about different problems. That's why we created those organizations. But then it also becomes very important to take that into account, because maybe what is a solution for one may be a problem for another. If you think about that Great Garuda project, I think there were quite some worries about what will this do with the biodiversity in that area. What will that mean for fishing communities? So a solution for one may be a problem for another. So it is important to be very explicit about this as a first step, as a scientist or as a planner. It does matter. The second thing is to realize that for a policy or a planning problem, we want to be able to do something about it. So the second thing you have to consider is, okay, what can my problem owner do about this? What are the possible alternatives, very roughly, that you could think of? If there is nothing you can do about the situation, it's really not a policy problem. And maybe it's still a problem in sort of common language, but not for planning or policy, because, hey, we have no alternatives to influence the situation in the desired direction. Then you also have to realize that this probably is going to be a difficult choice, because if it would be easy, we would have solved it already. And we are not stupid. Our colleagues in the government departments are really not stupid. They all want to work for the public. So if it would have been easy, it would have been solved. So there is likely to be a dilemma involved as well. So it means we have a problem in policy terms or in planning terms if we see, hey, there is a gap between what we see now, the situation we see now, and the situation we would like to have. So maybe we do have frequent floodings now in the city, and that's actually really not what we would like to have. And we have different ways, different alternatives to maybe reduce this gap. But each choice has its benefits and its costs, and maybe also sometimes some unintended side effects. So it's really not easy to see what is the best possible choice. And then the next thing is to also already quickly think, okay, if if we think this is our gap and our dilemma, who else is involved? We started with our problem owner, but also in this stage, very soon, we do have to start considering who else is involved and how would they maybe look at this situation. Would they see the same problem? Would they see slightly different problems or completely different problems? And if you go through these, let's say, items, you have a good basis to start discussing what problem you would want to address in your planning or policy analysis activity. And so you could do the same for, for this example, of course. I think my time is running up, so let me go quickly a bit through the end. These are the other steps that I already sort of mentioned. And the last thing is maybe to, yeah, I'll come to a close, is to realize that, okay, we have different types of methods for policy analysis, and a large part of them are research methods, and that means it's actually common to, well, actually basic types of research that you could also do in other contexts, but they are also relevant for policy analysis. All these are also described in an open source textbook for policy analysis, so maybe I will not go into detail now, but just point you to that open source textbook, which is called Policy Analysis of Multi-Actor Systems. We wrote it with a team of policy analysis colleagues at TU Delft, and we already use it in teaching there for 20 years, but we sort of consolidated that into this book at a later stage. And if you want, and if you are interested to learn more about it, you can find the textbook online. It's open source, so you can just download it and have a look. And that is what I wanted to share with you today. So thank you for your attention.
Yeah, thank you very much, Leon, for sharing. Yes, very interesting topics about how to formulate policy, particularly related to the coastal development. Presenter, Pak Wisnu. I will share the CV of Pak Leon that I forgot to mention it before. Mbak Inu, could you please help me to share the CV of Pak Leon? Yes, yeah, I think you need to make it a little bit bigger, Mbak Inu. Yes. We have Pak Leon, Associate Professor Leon M. Hermans, from Faculty of Technology, Policy and Management, TU Delft, the Netherlands. Currently, Pak Leon works in IHE Delft and TU Delft in Netherlands. And Pak Leon is the head of Land and Water Management Department and coordinator of the MSc specialization in environmental planning and management in those institutions. Pak Leon has research interests related to the particularly the methods of and as you already saw before, policy analyzing formulating, and he has a lot of experience also for the link for the free book, and we very happy to access it and sorry, have a problems. Okay, to learn more about the policy analysis related to the coastal developments. Okay, thank you very much, Mbak Inung. And then we move to Pak Wisnu. Please, Mbak Inung, share the CV of Pak Wisnu. Yes. Thank you. Pak Wisnu Pradoto is the lectures in Department of Urban and Regional Planning, Faculty of Engineering, Diponegoro University, graduated from Architecture Undip, and master degree in Urban and Regional Planning, and doctoral degree from TU Berlin, Germany in 2012. And currently, Pak Wisnu has a research interest related to the land management. There's some list of his publications related to land value captures and also the coastal development in particularly in Central Java, in Pekalongan. Currently, Pak Wisnu involved in several projects, and he also one of the expert in the integrated coastal zone management, one of the research unit in Diponegoro University. Okay, I think that's all for the CV from both speaker, and I will give the opportunity to Pak Wisnu to share his presentations related to the coastal developments and management. Please, Pak Wisnu, time is yours. 30 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bu Maya. It is very interesting to follow the presentation which is shared by Leon. Yeah, so I think problem identifications is very, very important. That is determine the proper solving. Yeah, so in this occasion, I would like to share about the horrible disaster, yeah, that has been happened in Semarang and also in other regions in Central Java province 2 weeks ago. Yeah, it is about the 3-day heavy rain, and I would like to share some evidence, and I would like also to share about the research result. This is very new research that has been conducted by Jovan and Wijanarko, our colleague in Undip, and it is about the sedimentations and the affected regions, yeah, by the high sedimentations due to the floods in 8 watersheds in Semarang city. And in the end, I would like to discuss about the lessons that can be learned from the Lisbon city in Portugal. It is about the riverfront rejuvenations or riverfront renewal. Yeah, that we can look at, yeah, only overview, but we can see how the possibility about of the riverfront area, yeah, to still accommodate the need for new spaces or the need for developable land for the future development. So please, Mbak Inung, share the screen. Okay, the presentations here I would like to share is about the floods and land use control in river basins. Yeah, and we know that Semarang is actually a unique coastal city as it has hilly area with a height of 120 meters above the sea level at a distance of only 20 kilometers from the beach. Yeah, we are in Semarang, highland. Here, the campus of Universitas Diponegoro is the hilly area of Semarang, and we can see how the uniqueness of the topographical conditions of Semarang brings to some extent the advantages, but to other extents we can see how the floods and as well as the land subsidence, yeah, have been make the Semarang city being worse. Yeah, so we have still challenges to overcome with the proper strategy. Yeah, and on one side, we still also optimistic that the coastal area still offer the new opportunity for new urbanizations, as long as we can stick with the effective regulations, applications, yeah, especially how we mitigate the flood disaster as well as the other climate change hazard. The lower areas of Semarang are suffering from floods as we have 8 watersheds. Yeah, so we can see 2 weeks ago, yeah, only 3 day heavy rain. The Central Java was suffering, yeah, from the big floods. 9 regions on the north coast of Central Java were flooded. Yeah, and the depth up to 80 centimeters. Yeah, we can see here some statistical facts. It is about the cost of the floods 2 weeks ago in Central Java province and especially in Semarang as the capital city. Next, please. Yeah, beside due to the low-lying communities nearby rivers, streams, and creeks, as well as the landslides that are possible in hilly or mountainous areas. Yeah, we also have the other problems about the sedimentations. Yeah, you know that the Central Java flood has damaged at least 6 dams. Yeah, embankment, including the Wulan River, the worst conditions. Yeah, that is has been submerged 88 villages in 10 districts in Demak and Kudus. Yeah, so I think it is the horrible disaster in 2024. Yeah, in the rainy seasons. Yeah, we can see how the effect of the disaster. Yeah, which I mean, yeah, the damages is increasing. Yeah, comparing to other floods incidents. Yeah, so but we can see how the 6 embankment, yeah, can be controlled. Yeah, not only with the engineering interventions. Yeah, with the hard structure. Yeah, but we can also see how the land use control, how the land management in the river basins can be controlled. Yeah, in a very well way. Yeah, so I think as Leon said that the deltas and coastal conditions is strongly determined or depend on the wellness, yeah, or of the management in the upland area. So the lowland area would be very much determined or depend on the management of the upland area. Next, please. This is some short film about the floods 2 weeks ago in Semarang City. You can see here what did flood make to Semarang City. This is the main station of Semarang City. Yeah, we can see here that floods inundated almost all of the settlements in the river basins. Yeah. Even the main stations were also submerged 80 centimeters. Yeah, and the train route was diverted to another station. Another problem is about the generations of rubbish and debris. Yeah, as we can see here in the film. Yeah, so the problem is about the debris resulting from the floods. And we can see that the reduced capacity of the river as the main drainage system for controlling the floods is caused by the poor control of land use in the river basins. Yeah, this is a village, namely Sayung, one of the prone to tidal flood villages in Demak Regency. We can see that the worsening conditions in terms of physical, still offer the new opportunity for the community. Yeah, so you can see here how the paddy fields or the agricultural activities has been replaced by the fishing ponds, due to the segment of the paddy fields here. So the people trying to use the water for the fishing economy, and some other of the people working in some industries located in the surroundings of their settlements. So I think if we see at most of the coastal area in the north coast of Central Java, we can see how the land subsidence altogether with the tidal flood has been make the community and the neighborhood become worse. But on the other side, we can see how the community were trying to survive, to make some adaptations. As it is interesting to see how in social and economic way they're trying to survive with the worsening conditions of the neighborhood. And next please. This is a research that has been conducted by Jovan and Wijanarko. We can see here how the sedimentations and the conditions of land cover over a period of 20 years in Semarang City. So both of them investigated about the total amount of suspended solid found at the delta and coastal area. So they calculate the increasing TTS is total suspended solid, TSS, in metropolitan Semarang, and they are focusing on the 8 watershed areas. Yeah, they come with the conclusion that watershed in Semarang City can be categorized into 3 groups. Yeah, the first is about the watershed that have very worsening level. Yeah, so it is about the Belorong watersheds. Yeah, you can see here how the land cover conditions in the upland area, yeah, has been significantly changed. Yeah, and as the result, we can see how, yeah, the maximum value of the suspended solid, yeah, has been increased. Yeah, so I think the suspended solid is not only resulting in the potentials or vulnerable area due to the storm water floods, but also we can see here how the quality of water in the deltas and coastal also worsens, yeah, become worsens. Yeah. We can see how the seagrass, for example, yeah, very much depend on the water quality in the coastal area. So I think the concentrations of sediments should be monitored very well. Yeah, if we would like to conserve the seagrass cultivation area in the coastal. The next, please. This is the East Canal watershed. We know that the Dutch has constructed 2 flood canal in Semarang City, the West Canal and East Canal. But in fact, yeah, I think when I was a kid, I remember that the East Canal and West Canal is still suffering from the storm water. Yeah, so it is frequently happen, yeah, where the East Canal or West Canal has been collapsed. Yeah, so its embankment collapse and cannot accommodate the increasing volume of storm water in the in the rainy season. Yeah. The next, please. This is the Beringin watershed. It is in the western part of Semarang City. We can see here also how the western part of Semarang City has been changed very much. Yeah, due to the development of new settlements. Yeah, we have the new town there, Bukit Semarang Baru, as well as the new industrial cities, yeah, in the western part of Semarang, as well as in the coastal area of the western region of Semarang. Yeah, so we can see how the Beringin watershed also contributed very much significant, yeah, to the productions of TSS. Yeah, so you can see here the number increased from 18 milligram per liter in 2003, yeah, and then until to 139 milligram per liter in 2023. Yeah, so it is Beringin is one of the worsening watershed, the poor watersheds, or the yeah, you know, the contributions to the solid sedimentations to the coastal area is very significant. Similar condition with the Dolok watersheds, yeah, but Dolok watershed is in the eastern part of Semarang City. Yeah, you can see here the Dolok watershed is one of the watershed that makes Sayung, yeah, village flooded, yeah, almost every year. Yeah, so Dolok watershed is also the other watershed which is become worse, yeah, due to the lack of control or lack of management, land management in the hilly area or the upland area. Please back to the, yeah, okay, thank you. No, yeah, the next one, thank you. Yeah, so here we can see three categories of the watershed or the river basin area in Semarang City. Yeah, so the low level is Blorong watersheds. You know, the Blorong watershed is a watershed in the border area between Semarang and Kendal regencies. Yeah, it is in the border regions. And then followed by the medium level is Garang watersheds and East Canal watershed, as well as the Babon watersheds. Yeah, I think the medium watersheds located in the central of the Semarang city. And you know that some of them also become the resources for the clean water for Semarang community or Semarang society. So I think you can see here how the Banjir Kanal Timur or East Canal Timur, together with the other watershed, not only contribute to the flooding incidents in Semarang, but also they provide the clean water, yeah, as the project produced by the PDAM, yeah, the local water treatment of Semarang City. And here the Beringin watershed and Dolok watershed all together. Yeah, the first is Beringin located on the western part of Semarang, and Dolok watershed in the opposite, located in the eastern part of Semarang. Yeah, together these two river basins become the influencer or become the most problematical regions. Yeah, we can see here how the worst conditions of floods in the western part and as well in the eastern part of Semarang, yeah, affected by this river basins region. Yeah, so I think in terms of mitigations, we have to concern with the river basins, yeah, the Blorong and the Dolok watersheds. The next, please. Yeah, this is the lessons that we can learn maybe from the waterfront areas, or especially the riverfront areas in Lisbon. I think Semarang, as a very urbanized regions in Indonesia, yeah, we can see how the potentials, yeah, vis-a-vis how the challenges of Semarang city, yeah, facing the climate change, facing with the rapid urbanizations in the coastal area, especially in the north coast of Semarang city. We can calculate between pros and cons, yeah, for the future developments. Yeah, we can come with the questions, yeah, to what extent or to some degrees, to what degrees the coastal area in Semarang is still offer or is still possible for new development, or even for the higher density, yeah, in the coastal area or in the lowland area. We can see here the experience of Lisbon city. Yeah, I would say that it is still optimistic, yeah, for even hazardous coastal in Semarang city to be redeveloped into new neighborhood or into new district of the cities. Yeah, but we have to apply the effective and systematic control, yeah, especially land control from the upland to lowland. Yeah, as Leon mentioned, the coordinated managements, yeah, the coordinated actors, yeah, how we can ensure that with the very good coordinations, I think it is still possible even for the hazardous or vulnerable regions in the coastal to be redeveloped, yeah, in the new development for future generations. And I personally very much optimistic because, yeah, you know that Indonesia is the biggest maritime country in the world, yeah, with over than 17,000 small islands, yeah. So it is our big challenges to prove or to realize that Indonesia is one of the nice waterfront city or even riverfront city. Yeah, so that is a challenges. And the last slides, please, Mbak Inu. Yeah, this is a kind of urban renewal. Yeah, it is a physical approach. Yeah, how the former vulnerable riverfront. Yeah, we can see or we can reflect the condition to the characteristic of riverfront or river basins in Semarang City. Yeah, so I think we can mix some dominant land uses like the settlements and the commercials or business. Yeah, so I think we can try to redistribute the density in the downtown of the Semarang city, yeah, to some part of the riverfront. Yeah, so we can make a yeah, new urban renewal in some riverfronts. Yeah, of course we have to make sure about the conditions of soil, about the conditions of yeah, you know, the hydrogeology. Yeah, as we know that the groundwater obstructions also very risky to do. Yeah, as we know that in Pekalongan city there is a moratorium of groundwater obstructions because it results the land subsidence there. Yeah, even in Sayung we can see according to the statistical fact, the problem is not about the tidal flood, but the problem comes from the land subsidence. Yeah, so I think to some part we have to stop the developments. Yeah, and we can yeah, move to other part of the city. Yeah, to be the new developable regions. Yeah, for the future. I think this is the materials. This is the insight I want to share this afternoon. And we are looking for the research and sorry for the question and answer sessions. I hope we have still maybe 10 minutes because Leon should leave on 3:30, yeah, here or in 9:30 in Dutch time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pak Wisnu, for the presentations. I think it's very interesting. From both speakers, Pak Leon's discussed about how to formulate policy related to the coastal development, and Pak Wisnu discussed about the problems and also the example of the solution related to these problems. Okay, I will invite the participant to raise one questions maybe for both speakers because of limited times. Please, if you have any questions, raise your hand. Okay, while waiting, we have one question from Ibu Lando to Leon. She said that I enjoyed very much for the presentation, and she has question related to the information that she got in about Netherlands. And yes, it's appearing here. Okay, about an active land use policy. Okay, could you please explain more about this policy and also discuss about the implementations of this policy in dealing physical adaptation among the coastal areas? Thank you, Leons.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Ibu Landung. Yeah, indeed. I think like most countries, also in the Netherlands, that there is a land use policy, and it also in fact fluctuates a bit over time in how actively it is being implemented and enforced, and even sort of the policy itself fluctuates a little bit over time. So I think 30 years ago that there was quite a clear land use policy which was including sort of spatial plans on all levels, from the national level to the municipal level. Then at some point other policy priorities come up and maybe are considered then more important. So what also happened is that for quite some time this land use policy and this sort of fairly strict spatial planning was loosened to allow for maybe a bit more developments, a bit more flexibility. And as a result, you see that now we are again discussing, and actually national government has again announced the idea to implement again a bit of a stricter land use policy, because of course land use is very and spatial planning is very much determining also the coastal protection and what you can do. I mean, Pa Wisnu's presentation was a very good point in that regard, to consider if you do different things in some of the more flood-prone areas, that maybe creates a better and a safer environment for everyone. So in the Netherlands now, they have developed 1 year ago, the government announced they want to implement something they called land and water as steering elements for landscape choices. But that so far is only really the announcement, and it really has not yet been translated into more operational standards and norms for what is possible. Because in reality, with land use planning, you always get a trade-off. So in the Netherlands, we are now still discussing, should we plan these new housing developments, because there is here a housing shortage, and some municipalities really have their eye on some pastures, but very low-lying areas, sometimes as low as 6 meters below sea level in the polders. And there is still debate, should we plan housing there or not? And even some water experts say, yeah, we can do that, we can fix it with technology. And others say, no, let's not do that. We know that is setting ourselves up for a very difficult future. So even that is debated. So yes, we have active land use policies, and no, it does not create easy solutions to our water and flood problems. And I think that is true for all countries over the world. Implementing these and enforcing these is always going to be difficult. And of course, there is not just floods we have to deal with. There are all kinds of other societal needs and goals as well. So it will always be a difficult dialogue you have to have with the stakeholders.
Yes, thank you, Leon, for the explanation. Yeah, it's clear.
Yeah, thank you, Leon. And also we have Bu Wiwi. Please, Bu Wiwi.
Yeah, thank you, Bu Maya, and thank you, Pak Leon and Pak Wisnu, for the interesting presentation. I will definitely download the book. Yeah, it's just knowing that the Delft has the book actually, and hoping that we can learn something from the book as well. I just want to know further, maybe from your, I have two questions for Pak Leon and also Pak Wisnu. For Pak Leon, I just want to know further, to what extent do you think the Dutch government has been succeed in integrate to provide a good flood control policy related to the situation where there will be like a cross administrative boundary issues, or with the cross institutional authority, for example, integration between the spatial planning policy or land use policy with the flood control policy. Maybe you can give your brief opinion on that part. And for Pak Wisnu, I haven't really make a research on how actually the land use have been well or unwell in controlling or integrating with the flood risk in most prone flood area in coastal, mostly in Java, ya Pak Wisnu. Maybe from your experience, can you share maybe how we can have a good example or good best experience in how we can keep, because I believe that land use control is very important to reduce the flood risk, and how you see this process has been going on in Java, Pak Wisnu, in coastal Java or maybe in Beringin. Do we have some best practice that can be replicated in some other areas, or do you think that it has been like only bad practices has been going on? I would like to have some sharing ideas from you as well, Pak Wisnu. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wiwi. Leon, please answer her question.
Yeah, thank you, Ibu Wiwi, for the questions. I think you had two related questions for me. One is how successful has the Dutch government been in sort of flood protection and in an integrated manner. I think so far in the past you can say quite successful, but it's never finished. For instance, the Dutch are now worldwide renowned for the Delta works, but some of them are more than 50 years old, and it takes also maybe 30 or 40 years to plan the next generation, and that is what we need to do now in the Netherlands. So you can see that debate is again sort of reopened in a way. And another clear example of success, but not enough, is that 2 years ago we had quite some large floods in Europe in the summer, which is for us is quite an unusual time to have floods. Also in the south, river floods. In Belgium and Germany, actually, people were killed, which is for Western Europe very unusual. In the Netherlands, that did not happen, and also the effects of the floods there were less severe than in Belgium and Germany. But there were still areas flooded, so it's still not something you can say, okay, so now we can accept this. But it was clear that the Room for the River program, which was sort of a big program early 2000s, implemented by the Netherlands in response to big floods in the 1990s, that program was actually having an effect, because otherwise it would have been really much more disastrous. But now, to continue that and to indeed do that in a more integrated manner across sort of the administrative boundaries, that is indeed the next challenge, because it is something that we try now in the Netherlands. For instance, I'm involved in a project called Living Dikes to use nature-based flood protection in the Dutch Waddenzee area, which is on the north coast of the country. And what you see there is that everyone agrees that, hey, this is maybe a great idea, a great innovation, but indeed, how do you implement it if you want it to be more than one sort of small pilot? then you run into all the administrative boundaries. And I think we will probably find a way to deal with that in the coming years. But so far, it is now creating actually a lot of bureaucratic and administrative complexity.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Pak
Thank you,
Leon.
Pak Leon. Just similar to the situation in Indonesia, ya, Pak Wisnu, I think. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, okay, please, Pak Wisnu.
Okay, thank you, Bu Wiwi, for the questions. I also wondering about the finding even only one good practices or best practices, especially in Semarang City. But unfortunately, as far as I know, there is no water sets in Semarang City, even in Beringin. As you know, in my presentations, we can see the evaluations of Beringin water sets. The Beringin water set become the worst conditions or the worst river basins. So I assume that the management of the river basins of the water sets is very, very, very poor. Yeah, I'm sorry to say, but if we look at the strategy of land developments in Bukit PSPS Bukit Semarang Baru, it is a new town, 1,000 hectares of new town, which has been constructed since 1995, I think. Yeah, so almost 30 years, until now. Yeah, and if I look at the proportion of the built up and non-built up area, it is still ideal, but in fact, we can see how the sedimentations, as we refer to or according to the study conducted by Jovan and Wijanarko, they are focusing on the sedimentation on TSS. So the solid sedimentations become the indicator to to assess the impact of the water sets in the Semarang City. So I prefer to say that Beringin water set is not the good options or the good practices to be replicated in other area. But I would like to stress something that the sedimentation is not only as the result of the land use pattern or land use strategy, because it also depend on the hydrology characteristics of the river basins of the soil. So I think not only depend on the land use pattern or land developments in an area, particular area, but we have to analyze in a holistic way. What about the hydrogeology or even the geology characteristics of the regions? We look forward to find the good practices PUIWI, to be replicated not only in Semarang but also in the north coast of Central Java or even north coast in Java Island. That's it, PUIWI.
Okay, thank you, Pak Wisnu, for the answer. Okay, we still have one question for Pak Leon. I hope it's still fine for you. From Mbak Intan, they're asking about the existing of deltas, particularly in Netherlands, that has a lot of problems. And one of them is the one that you mentioned before about the aging delta and dikes. And next, I think, but so related to the policy analysis that you already shared before, how do you, as a planner, deal with the complexity of the problem in the delta related to the coastal management? Would you please answer these questions, Leon?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Maya, that's fine. And then after that, indeed, I have to apologize myself, and then I have to go to do the other appointments of today. My day is just starting. I think you are in a different phase of your day, but I think the first thing to realize is that the problems in Delta areas, like actually a lot of complex policy problems, are what we nowadays have come to call wicked problems, and that means that we will never solve them. They will always return. It does not mean that we shouldn't do anything about it, but it does mean that we should not think that we as planners or policy analysts, or even if we would be the president of the country, that we can solve it once and for all. These are sort of these wicked and intractable problems that will always come back. And it is a bit like what I told you in response to the previous question about flooding in the Netherlands. Yes, we have done things we should do, and they have helped. And now we again face the same challenge, and we have to come to a new decision for the next decades. So we can do things, but we cannot fully solve it once and for all. That is important to realize, because otherwise your life as a planner or policy analyst will become very, very frustrating, because it's never solved. That's one. The second thing is then, what can you do as a planner and a policy analyst? I think a lot of things. And so that also means it becomes very important to think about what you want to do and what fits your skill set, maybe your training, but also the situation that you're in. One thing that you can do, of course, is to try and organize or conduct yourself analysis that informs policy and planning. And I think in the presentation from Wisnu, we saw some nice examples. I think also from even bachelor and MSc research, that actually is already helpful to bring information to the table. And of course, that's useful. It's never all the information you maybe would like to have, but it is already useful to have these pieces of information. And that is a very classic role that you could play as a planner and a policy analyst. But you could also think of other roles that nowadays for modern policy analysis are also recognized. And one is, for instance, to also maybe support the stakeholder dialogue, realizing that it's never one problem from one agency that is occurring in isolation, but that several stakeholders are involved and need to find a way to have that conversation with each other, because they will all be affected by the solutions, or they will all be needed to actually make the solutions successfully. If we want to address, I don't know, groundwater overpumping that occurs in large parts of Java, how can we ever do that by just agreeing at the policy level that this is what we do? We need all those organizations and households, businesses that do this pumping. So how do we then facilitate the dialogue among these stakeholders to become also a bit of a productive dialogue? That is another role that you could take as a policy analyst, which of course requires quite sort of different skills and training than the role of conducting the research about what's going on in the system.
Okay, thank you very much.
Maya, just 1 minute. Maya, some additional explanation.
Okay.
I forgot something. It is about the agricultural activities that might be happen in the Beringen watersheds. I remember that not only residential and industrial activities, as the main contributor to the sedimentations, but also the unfriendly and environmental friendly way of agricultural activities in the watersheds. So I think the agricultural activities and other characteristics of land use is become the contributor. So we have to analyze the conditions in a holistic way, in a comprehensive way, because the complex conditions of the watersheds from the upland until the lowland. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the speaker. I just want to conclude that recently we are quite shocked with the disaster, flood disaster, particularly in Central Java. And this is not the only disaster that we face. We have lots. And Pak Leon remind us about how to deal with the disaster by doing this, understanding the system management. I like your statement that right solution for the right problems is very important. And yes, I think this lecture series for this afternoon is very useful, very a lot of things to do, a lot of information, a lot of learn something new that we learn from both of speakers. Okay, I think that's all for today, and I will give the time for Mbak Adila to for the next part. Thank you, Mbak Adila.
Thank you. I would like to thank you to Pak Leon and Pak Wisnu, such an inspiring and fruitful discussion we have here today. And thank you to Ibu Maya for moderating the main session. Before we close this event, we would like to say thank you for the support and from the honorable guest lecturer today. We are very honored to have you with us here today this afternoon, sir. For documentation purposes, we invited all the participants to turn on the camera for photo session. And I will take the screenshot from here. Okay. I will count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now the other pages. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay. This event is about to come to the very end. I hope you found the presentation today are informative and helpful. We hope this event will bring an inspiration and positive impact for us all. Please forgive us for any shortcomings. We look forward to seeing you in the next international lecture series. I hope you all have a good day and thank you so much.
Thank you, Pak Leon, Bu Maya.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you for having me. It was nice. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you for organizing. Bye.
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 Thank you, Leon.